Welcome to the Soccer Geeks podcast, hosted by Jason Barbato.
Welcome everybody to the Soccer Geeks podcast. I'm your host, Jason Barbato, along with the best co-pilot, the best co-pilot anybody could ever have, Miss Marissa Callie. Marissa, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm well. How are you doing?
I am so excited, but I want you to tell everybody about the guest that we have today on the show. So why don't you go ahead and drop that bomb for everybody?
We have Marley Canales. She is a newly drafted player for the OL Reign, longtime soccer player, youth soccer player. We watched her come up in the surf system in San Diego and then play UCLA. So we're happy to have her on and talk a little bit about her journey, but also all the things when it comes to training and getting drafted into the NWSL. So we're super excited to have her today.
Absolutely. I can't wait to see kind of all the experience she's had growing up, and then looking forward, she has some big hurdles to climb as well. And I can't wait to just continue to cheer her along on the sidelines and see all the progress she makes. Well, why don't you go ahead and bring Marley on the show?
Awesome. Yay, Marley.
Marley, welcome. How are we doing?
Good. How are you guys?
Fantastic. We're very excited to have you on the show today. Very excited.
So
thanks for making time for us.
Of course.
Awesome. Well, I'll let you guys get to the conversation, and I'll just be back here giving it some notes, and I'll see you guys later.
Thanks, Marissa. Appreciate it. Marley, welcome to the show. Backstage, we were talking a little bit about the process. And like I had just mentioned in our opening conversation, you have had hurdles that you've had to face from a youth player in a highly competitive system. And now it just seems that you're and then you went to UCLA and now you're in the NWSL. So it seems that either you're a glutton for punishment or you really love overcoming big challenges. So, very excited to have this conversation for all of our youth players that are out there today to kind of talk about, for you, your experience of how you've kind of overcome some of those challenges. So I'll start our question off with this. A tryout season is upon us right now for most youth players here in Southern California. Is there a story or two that you can kind of share from your experience as a youth player, kind of working through that tryout process? Maybe share what age it was and kind of what the situation was for us a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. So when I first started playing soccer, I was at a very small local club, and I stayed there for probably until I was about U14. So I played a couple years up. I was really just not too much focused on winning games, but I just really wanted to develop. And then when around high school time started to come, I knew that I needed to go to probably a bigger club to have college coaches see me and just be put in a really good situation to set me up. And so, yeah, when I was about 14, my dad took me to surf, San Diego Surf, and that was a much bigger club in our area. So I remember I was just from this little club from my hometown, and I loved that club. I was there since I was probably 6. So I loved being in my comfort zone. I was familiar. I grew up with a lot of those players. And I remember my dad, who's been my coach my whole life, he told me, I think it's in your best interest to go to San Diego. And I think that it'll test your limits and challenge you. And I think this is the best situation for you. So I trusted him and I said, okay, I'll do it, I guess. So I went, and I remember at the polo fields, I'm sitting in the car with my dad, and I was so nervous. I didn't know any of these girls. I just assumed they wouldn't like me. At first I am very shy. So yeah, I remember just sitting in the car and I was ready to cry. And I'm like, I don't want to go to this. I want to go back to my little club, and just keep everything the same. And my dad just talked to me and he's like, it's just soccer. Everything's going to be the exact same. You all put on your cleats, and kick a soccer ball around. So yeah. I was very reluctant, but my dad convinced me because it wasn't like he was going to drive me home. So he kept me there, and he's like, you're not leaving. So you're going to this field. So I went out there, and I remember passing the ball with my dad. I was just beyond nervous, playing with new players. Yeah. But he like I said, he's been my coach my whole life, and he's like, it's just soccer. Just go out there, have fun, play like it's just you and me in the backyard. So that's what I ended up doing, and the tryout went really well. But yeah, I mean, I know that it's a very stressful situation, and you're out of your comfort zone. So anytime you do that, it's going to be difficult, but you don't grow when you stay in your little comfort zone and nothing changes. So I knew that I wanted to play in college, and I knew that I had big aspirations. So I knew that this was the best situation for me. But I'm thankful my dad didn't let me drive home that day.
Absolutely. It's remarkable too, because at such a young age, you kind of knew the pathway you wanted to embark on. And you kind of, even from just sharing that right now, you kind of talked about the fact like you knew what it was going to take. And I wonder for a lot of players, if that conversation happened sooner, if it would help them just mentally and psychologically prepare. One of the things, I'm a dad. I've got a daughter who is currently a U14 and another daughter who is a U11. And we talk about that now. I mean, when it comes to tryouts, I have them try out for a lot of teams. Not that we're ever necessarily going to leave clubs. I'm not really big on making lateral moves. As you said, you played for the same youth club for a really long time. But I always think it's really good to put them out of their comfort zone, put kids that they've never seen before. And we just went through this last week. And, I had encouraged my girls, and I told her, hey, listen, just the only thing I want you to do is to make sure that the coaches know your name by the time you leave the field. Just do something to where they're like, hey, what's your name? And that they remember, and then shake their hand on the way out. Like that's the number one thing. And so working to be noticed. Now, when you went to start, can you just drop the name of the community kind of smaller club that you played for? Because we want to be able to plug them too. Where'd you play before you went to surf?
I played at PQ Premier. So I lived in Rancho Penasquitos, and the club name was PQ Premier. And then they combined with another team from the area. So then we became San Diego. I honestly don't know. Something San Diego, but
is it San Diego United?
I think so.
Maybe it's that one. Yeah. It happens all the time, right? I was talking with some friends the other day about this process too. And it's like within 20 minutes of my house, there's 25 youth clubs. It's one of the rare places in the country where we are so saturated with youth players. And so the process, I think, for trying out is a little bit different for everybody. Now, when you made the jump from PQ Premier to surf, did you automatically make their academy first team, or kind of where was your pecking order, kind of how they placed you there?
Yeah, so I did make their first team. I believe the year that I left for college is when they started academy. So it wasn't necessarily academy yet when I was in club, but I did make their first team, and I was very excited. And at that same time, my dad had me start training with boys as well. So I was all out of my comfort zone, joining a new team and then starting to play with boys too. I think that's one of the best things that my dad's done for me in my process of where I am now, is just continually making me uncomfortable. And that has helped me grow so much.
Speaking of continuing with being uncomfortable, you went with a couple, I think with more than one teammate to UCLA, right? From surf, or was it just you and Mia that went to UCLA?
Mia, she's a few years younger than me, but then also Sunny Dunphy and Kaya Masala came with me in my grade to UCLA. Okay,
gotcha. So at least you had some kind of familiarity kind of walking into that big college campus experience. How did that that desire that your father kind of instilled in you to like be uncomfortable? I mean, it's a huge hill to climb, being a freshman, one of the biggest programs in the country. How did, that prepare you to walk into now the next stage of your career where, you've got to earn and fight minutes? I mean, what did that look like kind of walking into UCLA as a freshman?
Yeah, it was very difficult, actually. I wish that I could say that it was all smooth sailing, but my freshman year was very difficult. And I believe that I was coming off a U20 World Cup. So I missed my real freshman year because of the World Cup. So I came in January, and I thought that, I just came from U20 World Cup. Like, this is going to be awesome. And it wasn't like that. It was very difficult. In college, you have girls that are 4 or 5 years older than you, and now you are competing for a position. And it's much like how the pro level is going to be. But yeah, no, my freshman year, I think that it was just very difficult. I wasn't really in the right mind frame to make that big jump. And I underestimated kind of just how big the jump would be, from club, high school, now to a program like UCLA. And so my freshman year, I really didn't play at all. I played a couple minutes here and there and throughout season. And it was very frustrating. It was the first time really in my life that I wasn't playing, wasn't starting, wasn't really playing how I usually play. So I think that after that season, I was like, I could pick one or two ways. I could leave, transfer, or I could stick it out and figure out what's the problem, how do I fix it, and do I want to stay here? And I loved my time at UCLA. I'm so grateful for the whole opportunity. But the summer after my freshman season, I had a choice, and I decided to get the fittest I could. I had to work on my confidence because it was very low. And I just had to be ready to compete. And after my freshman year, I became a 4-year starter, and that's what I did. But I mean, most people, you would think coming off a U20 World Cup, it'd be smooth sailing, but it wasn't. But I'm very thankful for those challenges because it taught me that, okay, this is on me now. You're not living at home. You're not with your parents. This is all on me. So I had to grow up, and I did. So it was for the best, I believe.
Yeah, you did. I mean, like I said, I've really followed your career and been an admirer of your work ethic since you were even a youth player at Surf, and seen everything that you've kind of had to work through at UCLA. And eventually, so the audience knows, you were team captain this last year. Mm-hmm. And which is a huge honor. Can you talk a little bit of what it was like to be a college athlete during COVID and everything? And you talk about the psychological and even the physical hurdles that you had to overcome, and being a leader on your team and an avid, Twitter user as well. It's always been great to follow all the stuff that you post through the years as well. But can you talk about what it was like to lead yourself and lead others through, this nightmare experience that we all have lived through called COVID? Can you talk a little bit to our friends in the audience about that?
Yeah. So actually right before COVID, I had torn my ACL, and
I remember. Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the hardest things I've gone through. So the pandemic was right in the middle of my rehab, my recovery, and I used to go into UCLA and do rehab for about 4 hours. And then all of a sudden pandemic hit, and my trainer's like, no one can come back to campus. We're on a lockdown basically when the pandemic first hit. And that was very difficult because now I'm at home. I had to use the equipment I had to take control of my recovery and my rehab. And
sure.
It was very difficult because I had exercises, but I didn't have my athletic trainer there to guide me and whatnot. So again, I had to take it by the horns and take control of my rehab and recovery because I knew that I needed to get back on the field. I missed it so much. And so it was very difficult. And then I ended up being able to slowly go back to campus. And then our weight room started to open. So it took a toll on my rehab because it took me about 14 months to come back, where I was hoping it'd be under a year. But that's just stuff I couldn't control. And the most important thing at that time was that people are being safe, people are staying healthy. And that's at the end of the day, the most important thing. So our season did get canceled in the fall. So then we move into a spring season coming 2021. And it was difficult because we have new players that we haven't even been able to meet in person. So we're trying to do Zoom sessions, and our coaches, they're just trying to get us to know who each other are, So,
and everybody loves being on Zoom. It's like it's fantastic. And it's a great place to get to know. Yeah. It's a horrible way to become teammates. I had to even see that with my kids. All the kids would set up with the soccer ball in their backyard, and they're all doing ball drills. And my girls would literally come in afterwards, and they're like, I I'm going to hate soccer if I have to keep doing this, Dad. Like, it's the worst.
Yeah.
You know, it's so hard. Can you talk about I get the physical. Can you talk about, and now you're kind of talking about the communal or like the unitedness of a team, but, like, I think it's so impressive that in the midst of all of that, you're identified by the coaching staff and identified by your peers as a captain. And I think that carries a huge sense of weight. Can you talk a little bit about the responsibility you felt to not only lead yourself, but to be validated in a sense by your peers and your coaching staff to be able to lead others? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think that growing up, again, my dad always told me you have to be a leader, not a follower. And that really came into play in the pandemic because now it's up to me, there's no training sessions, there's no team, anything. So I knew that this was going to be my last full year at UCLA. I knew I was going to stay in the fall. But for the spring, my time at UCLA was dwindling down. So I think I've always relied on my work ethic and to set an example that way, and also be very vocal. So whether that was connecting with new girls that were brand new to UCLA, it's having them buy into our culture. And our senior class did a great job of creating a very healthy and safe and productive culture. And that's exactly what I wanted. That's what we agreed on. And that's just something that I think was hopefully going to change UCLA for a long time. It is competitive because it's one of the best schools in the country. But at the same time, you have to make sure that you're looking out for each other and holding each other accountable. So it's a very big balance. But yeah, I knew that I had gone through so much at UCLA. I was a starter, not a starter, injuries. Yeah, everything. So I felt like I could really relate to girls that were going through all different things, whether they were injured, playing, not playing. Like I use that to my advantage and use that as, hey, I know what you're going through. Like I've been through that and I've been able to come out the better end of it. So that's really what I use in my leadership style, is just to have everyone get on the same page. And I think that started with when things got difficult in the pandemic.
I love that. And I think that, it's really important, even coaches, parents, players, at the end of the day, remove the soccer ball, your people, strip all those things away, and you're human beings. And we all want to know that we're going to be all right. And there's going to be a future and a pathway forward, even if it looks different from what we expect. And so I found that in leading others, you have to not only know how to lead others, you have to know how to lead yourself too. And so that's such a huge, vital component. And not everybody's a leader, but it's when we look to those that actually are leading us, where are they leading us and to what end? And so I think that's just such a valuable characteristic. And I know it's going to take you really far in your career. Can you share a little bit with us of, some of the bigger themes for you now, transitioning, knowing, hey, college is coming to an end. College wasn't the be all end all for you, Marley. How did you have to start shifting gears to prepare yourself for a professional career?
Yeah, so it had been a dream since I was little, and I just really challenged myself to start to get in the mindset of a professional, whether that was how my nutrition, my fitness, training on and off the field. I know it's a different level, and I challenge myself to take it to the next level because, I still have so much love for the game, and you have to if you're going to prepare for the professional level. And so that's when I knew I'm like, I want to keep playing for as long as I can because I love the sport and I love the process of training and having the payoff be on the field. So that's what I tried to do, preparing for at least the draft. And now I leave in 2 weeks from yesterday to go up to Seattle. So I'm super excited for that. But I'm just so excited to learn from some of the best players in the world. So that's what I've tried to mentally prepare myself for. And then also just everything's a level up, whether that's lifting, nutrition, training. It's going to be challenging, but again, I'm so excited and I believe I'm ready.
What were some of the sacrifices, other than like, late night snacks and not sleeping but what were some of the other legitimate like costs that you had to just basically sacrifice to go, all right, I've achieved at this level. I really had to push myself to get here, but now I know that something has to give here. But what were some of the things that you had to sacrifice, to make this jump?
Yeah, I think that, it starts when you're young, obviously, whether that's going to tournaments for the weekends, just having games, trainings. I know also through high school, I missed a lot of social events, whether that's prom, dances, senior trips, whatever it may be. And also I missed a lot of school, so that was difficult. But yeah, it was very difficult because I have had friends that they don't play sports. And so they're like, oh, we're going out to do this, we're doing this. And I'm like, I have training, I have games, I need to go and do my extra work. And so thankfully my friends are understanding of my goals and my dreams. But yeah, it was very difficult. And then also just being away from my family for a long time. It's not easy, but my family has always stood behind me and my goals and my dreams. So at the end of the day, it's not necessarily a sacrifice because I love what I'm doing and I know my family's behind me, but it is missing holidays, birthdays, all of that stuff. But I know that it's gonna pay off for sure. Yeah.
Well, and it looked, obviously you're on the doorstep of it really paying off for you. Can you talk about the process of the NWSL Draft? Can you kind of just share some of the behind the scenes stuff for our audience? Were you receiving, phone calls from, general managers and coaches or things like that? What did that process kind of look like for you?
Yeah, it was, draft day was crazy. Well, first of all, leading up, by the time my season ended,
can you talk just about leading up to draft day? Because I have a couple other questions about draft day, and I have an opinion I want to share with you. But leading up to draft day, share that for us.
Yeah, leading up to draft day, I had talked to a couple of different teams, a couple of different GMs, head coaches, and my agent had been very helpful in kind of constructing and just getting the word out, that I'm ready for the NWSL draft and I'm excited. And so, yeah, I had talked to a couple different teams, and at the end of the day, they can't necessarily promise you anything. Anything can happen, and everyone saw with the expansion draft as well. Draft picks are shifting everywhere. So there's really no say of what's going to happen until the day actually comes. So there was a big countdown for the day of the draft, and I watched in my house with my family. And so the day of the draft, you kind of just sit and hope and wait. I had heard from a couple teams earlier in the week, but with the expansion draft, and then I think there was a day in between, and then the real draft, you're really just sitting there and waiting for your name to be picked. And it was, I will never forget that day because it was emotionally taxing. But there's so many different emotions, like you're excited, you're nervous, you're confused, just a lot of stuff. So, I'm so thankful from OL Reign and Laura Harvey for giving me this opportunity. And right before my name was called, I got a phone call from a Seattle number, and I answered it. And Laura Harvey said, "Marley, get ready to hear your name get picked." And I was very emotional. I'm a pretty emotional person.
That's great. Yeah.
So I had taken that phone call outside, and I ran back into my house, and I told my parents, and we just sat there together and waited to hear my name called. So there was so many emotions. I remember Laura asking me on the phone, she's like, "Are you still there?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm all choked up. I can't really talk." But thank you so much, So it was crazy because, I had no idea where I was going to end up. But I was just praying for an opportunity. That's all I've ever really asked for. So, again, I'm just so thankful for OL Reign, and they have already incredible midfielders, an incredible team. So I am over the moon, so excited to just go there and learn. And so I'm very thankful. I'm very excited.
It seems that your career has continued to put you in the deep end of the swimming pool at every leg. And the one thing that I'm so impressed with you and in our conversation even today is I really don't even know if OL Reign knows the type of person that they have on and off the field that they have in you. And I personally, I have no doubt that you're going to be really successful. Speaking of draft day, I was watching, some of the draft boards. You were slated to go much higher.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, this is just me speaking. I was not happy with how far into the draft you ended up. On this end of the aisle, I was very confident that somebody knows your quality and was gonna draft you, knowing that you're going to such a star-studded, midfield of an organization, but also knowing that all the other teams passed on you multiple times. Tell me how that ignites your engine and your fire to prove the people who believe in you right, and to prove the people who didn't really wrong. Tell me about the fire in that engine for you.
Yeah, no, it feels like the draft was yesterday. I still have the same feeling in my stomach of being very thankful for Laura and the Reign. On one side of it, being very, very thankful and so excited. But yeah, the other side of me is like, okay, it is what it is at this point, and I'm not going to spend any more energy questioning or being upset, But,
Fair. I'll do that for you. But
yeah,
yeah.
I won't forget that. At the end of the day, it is what it is, and I've just needed an opportunity, and I wanted to go somewhere where they were going to believe in me and just be excited for me. So it is what it is at this point. But it ignites a fire in me that I didn't know was there. So I'm excited, and I feel like that's kind of just been my story of my journey so far. And it's my own motivation, and I have my own. I don't need other people's opinions to
get me going. Well, you're a leader, as we talked about before. You're someone who knows how to lead yourself, and mm-hmm. even when it's a daunting task where the players are more seasoned and more professional and more developed in their craft, I don't see you shrinking back personally. I think that is something that really adds more kindling to it. I'm very excited for you in regards to that. And you said you leave in 2 weeks to head up to Seattle, and you're going to be getting prepared for Challenge Cup, which kind of starts here pretty soon, correct?
Yes.
What's the conversation been like for you going into that? It's just like, hey, preseason, we kind of see how things kind of go. And, did they give you any expectations about, playing time or where you are in the pecking order or anything like that?
No, not really. I think that we start the first, and that's that. You have to go out and prove yourself every year, and every player is going to be fighting for the same thing, So, no, we have a couple more team meetings coming up for like what to expect for that side of it. But no, now it's a business, and it's the professional level. So I don't need to be promised anything, and I'm just going to go out there and prove what I have and what I've been training for. So that's all that I can ask for. So that's what we got coming for us.
In a lot of ways, Marley, it seems that you've been preparing for this for your whole life. You know what I mean? And it seems that it's a series of, going back to your dad pushing you out of your comfort zone at 14 years old, stepping into UCLA and not getting any playing time, to, a loaded team in OL Reign. You've been prepping for this your whole life. And I just want to encourage you that everything you've done to this point has prepared you to be in this position. And I think you're going to be wildly successful just based on your own passion and your own fire. So I'm super pumped for you. Pivoting gears a little bit, one of the things that you had shared with us previously was that you're pursuing your master's right now in transformative coaching. Can you talk a little bit about that degree decision and kind of what that looks like for you and what that means?
Yeah. So I had finished my bachelor's, and I got my bachelor's in psychology. And that's kind of when I decided that I was going to stay another year. Just coming back from my knee injury, I really wanted another solid season at UCLA. And so honestly, my ACL was a blessing in disguise because I was able to stay another year at UCLA and walk away with a bachelor's and a master's from UCLA. So yeah, I'm in the Transformative Coaching and Leadership program at UCLA in the Master's of Education, and it has been so awesome. There are a lot of other athletes in kind of my same situation, especially with the pandemic, of just staying an extra year and being a grad transfer, grad student. So my program has been incredible. I'm a big sports girl, so it's been all sports related, and then just leadership, as the title says, and it's been awesome. I mean, I've been able to learn so much from other players, leaders, coaches, and a lot of the program has also revolved around John Wooden. And I thought that going in UCLA, I knew of John Wooden, didn't knew Pyramid of Success. But now after this program, I can walk away truly understanding Coach Wooden's philosophies and his ideas of what it takes to be great. And so I'm so thankful. I've learned so much from this program, and it's truly, like I said, it's been a blessing in disguise with my knee.
Yeah. What would you say, maybe one or two kind of little reminders from a leadership perspective? Like I've talked a little bit about, leaders have to first lead themselves, but what are some of the things that stick with you that kind of play, on repeat in your brain to keep you motivated?
Yeah, I think you kind of mentioned it always has to come from me. You have to love the sport and be willing to put in the work, because I mean, you can be at the gym, you can be on the field running, and if you, let's say, cut reps or you're just not going as hard as you know you can, you're only hurting yourself. But at the same time, no one knows except for you. And that's a level that I try to hold myself to, and just knowing that I can do the very best I can do, and that's what I'm going to do every time. So you have to have yourself at a very high standard, and that's just what I've done because I love the sport and I want to compete and be successful. So yeah, I think definitely having your own inspiration and not having to get that from anyone else, and then just having belief and faith that things are going to work themselves out. You can control your work ethic and what you do in the 24 hours of a day. But at the same time, there's things that you can't control. And that's been something that I've had to learn throughout my career. Is there's so many things, like I couldn't control blowing out my knee. It was a freak accident, but it's how I'm going to respond in my rehab, my attitude and stuff like that. So I think those are two things that I continually have to remind myself that if this is what I want, I'm the only one that can put in the work, and I'm going to do the best I can. And at the same time, I can't spend time worrying about things that are completely out of my control.
Yep. I tell my girls all the time, I say, there's only two things really you can control, and that's your effort and that's your attitude. Yep. Beyond that, the referee, the wind, the rain, the lightning, your teammate, jogging instead of running, whatever it is, those are the only two things that you can genuinely control. Every other outcome is random. But if you keep those things honed in over time, you will have more success than failure.
Yeah.
Definitely. And so thinking back now, looking back of all that you learned at your time at UCLA, everything you're learning in your master's program, what would you tell the 14-year-old Marley kicking a soccer ball with her dad down at Polo, that if you were to tell her one thing to just hold on to back then that you feel would have been, one of those cherished, precious concepts, what would you share with 14-year-old Marley?
I think I would want to share that I am fully capable of achieving my dreams. I haven't always been the most confident person, and my family can attest to that. There's been so many doubts in myself and just in my ability, but something that I've always leaned back on is my love for the game. And that's something that I'm so glad I still have 10 years later, from that 14-year-old self. I still love the game as much as I did. And that's why I go out and train so hard and continue to play. And I think just knowing that I can be as good as I want to be, and I have to shoot for the stars and just believe in myself. If I don't believe in myself, no one will. So it's just little reminders like that every day, is just being confident in the work that you put in, because if you put in the genuine work, there's going to hopefully have good outcomes. So just being confident in myself and continuing to love the game as much as I can. Yeah.
Super, super, super important. What great advice. I'm going to share that with my daughters tonight, by the way. Let's pivot a little bit. I'm a country over club guy. I'm a massive national team fan. Huge. Can you talk about what conversations have you had, and what radars are you on in regard to national team stuff right now? Are you on any radars? Are you trying to, are they talk to you about camps and things like that? Where are you at with that?
Yeah, so I'm now 24. So obviously too old for the U23s. And so the only team left is the full team. And that's, again, been a goal since I was little. I started with the national team when I was about 13 and have been into camps basically since that age. So now, it's an interesting time, because you look at the NWSL and there's so many incredible players that want the same thing I want, just an opportunity and just to get to that next level. And so that's really what, but it's still a dream, still a goal. So it's been weird, with the pandemic. It's just been hard with my knee. And now aging out of the U23s, the next level is only the full team. And so that's something that, I keep in the back of my head. And I have many goals, many dreams. And so that's going to stick in my head for sure. And the only thing I can worry about right now is being prepared for Seattle and going up there and just doing the best I can. And then again, whatever happens, happens.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, you've been in that pipeline for so long, and you're at a new stage in your career where, again, you have to prove yourself. And no good deed's going to go unnoticed, I think, as far as your career goes. And one of the great things I think we've seen from Vlatko and his staff is that they're not afraid to bring in young players, because we just know where the national team is at. So I have no doubt if you continue on your trajectory, you're going to put on the kit for the full team. And, hopefully it's somewhere remotely in the West Coast, and I could bring my girls there. We could support you. That would be just wonderful. If you can share just a little bit, because you were talking about preparing for Seattle. What are some of the, the things that you're doing to get prepared to get yourself into camp? You talked about, hey, during COVID, I had to do my own PT by myself. There isn't a manual. Hey, Marley, this is what you do in between getting drafted and getting ready to go to your first team camp. So share a little bit about the company that you're with, kind of getting prepared for that, and kind of some of the things that you're doing. Unless you can't share, I don't want you to share the secret sauce recipe, but, share what you can with us.
Yeah. So just within these last 2 months, I've been back and forth between San Diego and LA, just really trying to check all the boxes with nutrition, fitness, individual ball work, and then playing in like small-sided games for just the speed of the game, So yeah, I've just been back and forth, training again with my dad and going back to my roots of training with him. And I've also been able to train with David Copeland-Smith at Beast Mode, with a couple women from the full U.S. team down in San Diego, and then just a couple of pickup games with some older guys that just have pickup games going on. And I think that that's so beneficial, I mean, it's so fun to be able to play and just compete and just get out there and, the typical off-season stuff. You want to make sure that you're staying healthy and staying fit, but also just getting in what you feel like you need to get better at, just fine-tuning some things. And then obviously incorporating some fitness and lifting, because it is going to be a whole new level.
Gotta be strong.
So that's basically it. Just like I said, trying to check all the boxes, make sure I'm prepared as I can be.
I have no doubt you will. One of the things we like to discuss on the show, Soccer Geeks, it's not just a podcast, just to talk about soccer people. One of the things we're developing is we're actually developing an app that is going to gather and centralize more stats for youth players across the country outside of just goals and assists. Because, as a midfielder who scored, 3 goals, at her senior year, that the metrics have to go beyond just goals and assists, because there's so much more that's out there. And so one of the things that we always look at, that, that's kind of why the questions have led along the lines of development. But one of the things we always want to look at is also areas in our country for things to improve. We're still a relatively young soccer country, or football or soccer country here in the States. The women's game is incredibly, we were very much are more advanced than most other places in the world, but they're starting to catch up. And looking back in your career and development and the coaches that you had and the clubs that you played for, your college experience, if you were to kind of identify and key 1, maybe 2 areas that if you could wave the Marley wand and you could change, what would you change and to what effect?
And that's for us, just like measuring things throughout the game.
No. I'm talking Soccer Geeks, the app, that's what we're trying to do. Like we're doing that metric stuff. I'm talking what could the referees suck in this country? I want better referees. Like whatever, the parents on the sidelines are all quiet, like whatever it would be, if you were to enact, you're president of the federation for a day and you can enact any change that you think would make the greatest impact in this sport in our country, what would you do?
Yeah, I think that it would be very important to also continue to address the mental side of the game. I think that that's something that I haven't always been intact with, because so many people just focus on the physical side, and I think having my bachelor's in psychology now, it's so important. And I think that obviously your mental health is a huge priority. And then also just the mental side of the game, whether that's how you respond to failure, how you maintain your confidence. Those are still things that I continually work on myself, regardless of what level I'm at. So I think that, just making sure that players are in the right mindset to be able to perform to the best of their ability.
Yeah. It makes a huge difference. And, in the coaching culture and the playing culture and the competitive culture that you've grown in, sometimes we sacrifice the mental future of our kids so we can get results today. Mm-hmm. And again, going back to the fact that, everybody, but like your dad said, everybody puts their shoes on the same way every time they step on the field. That they're people. We're people, and it's so vital and so important to treat our opponents, our teammates, people on the sideline, parents on the sideline treating kids, people in the crowd now cheering Marley, playing for OL Reign. Like, you guys are people and you have lives, and I think that that's so important. Something we can never forget. I want to thank you so much for the conversation we've had today. I know that we've got to get you down south. Mm-hmm. So you can continue on that wonderful tear of training that you have. But thank you so much for the conversation today. I hope in the future we can get you back on the show, and love to hear more about your experiences. But thank you for being such a lovely guest and a wonderful person to have and sharing your experiences with us today.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
And we're going to drop you backstage, but don't leave, because there's a couple of things backstage I still would love to be able to chat with you about. So give me like 2 more minutes and we'll get you off. We'll get Marissa on. We'll wrap it up. But thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much for being here today. Really proud of everything you've done. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. No problem.
You got it.
Awesome.
All right. Well, thanks everybody. What a wonderful, wonderful conversation with an absolutely amazing youth player in our country. Sure. What a shining example as she is for young girls. And I would venture to say a lot of young men as well in our country, to look forward to her experience and to glean from her mental fortitude. Man, what a remarkable young lady. So thanks for booking that, Marissa. You are the best.
Yes.
Yeah,
and it'll be like you said, hopefully we can have her back after she has some time up in Seattle and see how that transition is going and hear how that's going. Obviously, all the stuff that she's learned throughout her career.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thanks again to our audience. What?
Go ahead. I was going to
say thanks again to our audience for sticking along the show. What's our reminder? What are we doing?
You can follow all of our stuff on social media at Soccer Geeks USA. And if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you hit subscribe.
Hit that sub button. Let's go. All right. Well, thanks so much, Marissa. Appreciate you as always. Thanks to our audience. Have a great day, everybody. Take it easy. Bye-bye.
Bye.